wedding dress is 5,000.
So
he gives you 5,000.
You keep like 3,000
And you
dress.
spend... Huh? It happens.
You're joking.
No, I'm dead ass. But like, don't tell him. And it's like, yep. So a lot of people say yes to being a bridesmaid because, oh my gosh, it's lovely, it's an honor, blah,
But
blah,
they
blah.
don't realize.
But they don't realize the financial burden that it takes. As a wedding planner who has been doing this for so long, there is no way.
No way.
A lot of things in the wedding industry, which is probably really bad for me to say as a wedding planner.
Whoa, you tell.
Is just...
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Nadine, and if you're new here, welcome. And I do all kinds of videos here on my channel. I do some midwifery related content because I'm a midwife, and I also do some fashion, beauty and lifestyle videos. But I'm on the way to becoming is it a Mrs. or Miss?
Mrs.
So I've started like a wedding series on my channel where I show you guys how I prepare my wedding and all of that good stuff. So we're continuing the wedding series, and in today's video I've got a special guest. I'm gonna let her introduce herself in a moment, but her name is Philo. She'll give you guys a brief intro about herself, tell you guys what she does. But she is a wedding planner, events planner, all of the above. She's got so many hats, but she's gonna tell you guys all the details. So if you're new here, you haven't hit that subscribe button, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But let's get started with this video. Philo, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh yes, thank you. So hi guys, my name is Philo, and I've been planning weddings and events now. It's been about 9 years. So I plan weddings, I plan parties, and I do a lot of corporate work as well. But weddings are my bread and butter, and the ones I love the most, I think.
Yes. But you don't only just do events. I'm sure you do other. She's right now. She's like renovating her house with her husband. So that's another hat.
Yes.
You're a businesswoman as well.
Yeah. So my day job is essentially events, but on the side we do a lot of like Airbnb. We also do like home renovations and stuff. So quite fun.
Excellent, excellent. So I asked you guys over on my Instagram. If you guys are not following me on Instagram, make sure you do. So I basically put out a question box for you guys to basically ask Philo all your wedding questions. If it's about wedding planning a wedding, I'm going to be asking her everything to do with weddings and how to plan a wedding. She is the professional in the field. So she's going to give us the details, including cost, budget, like how to, you know, go around finding vendors and all of that good stuff. So without further ado, let's get started. I've got all the questions on my phone, so I'll be looking down here and you're going to be answering them.
Yes, so happy to.
So are you ready? Are you ready?
Yep.
So before we start, so many people don't know the difference between wedding planner and wedding coordinator. So what's the difference between the two?
Okay, so the way I like to explain it is a wedding planner essentially is the project manager for your whole wedding. They would help you choosing your vendors. They help you with managing your budget. They are essentially like your PA when it comes to your wedding. So you come to them, you say, I want this type of wedding. This is how much I want to spend. And then this is how many guests I have. And the wedding planner, from their experience, their vendor network would say, this is the best photographer for you. What do you think about this caterer? What do you think about this person? So everything comes from them and their expertise.
Right, okay.
Whereas a wedding coordinator, so you would then go out, you do all the research. So you would say...
So you would plan your own wedding and then you get a coordinator.
Yeah. So then the coordinator would come in once you've completed, so you've chosen your photographer, videographer, your venue, everything.
So you've basically planned your wedding.
Yes. And then obviously on the day when you've planned your wedding, you can't do much.
Coordinate.
Your friends and family, please don't let your friends and family do anything either. So then the wedding coordinator comes, and think of them, you've put all of these things in place. They would then do the knots. They will tie the bows, make sure everyone is speaking to one another and be the point of contact. So a wedding planner also does that on the day.
Right. Because
they've planned it on the day, they would be the person everyone's talking to.
So would a wedding planner will also coordinate or just make sure that everything is like, apart from all coordination, they wouldn't do? No, a wedding planner is there from the beginning when you start planning your wedding.
They hold your hand through the whole process until the end.
Okay.
A coordinator comes in like 3/4 of the way.
When you've planned
when
everything.
you've done everything.
To execute everything.
Yes. So you would say, I've chosen this caterer and this. And then a good wedding coordinator would look at everything from the outside and say, okay, have you thought about this? You've done catering. How many hours are the caterers booked for? What time is set up meant to be? Then they would say, okay, you've missed this, so how about we put in a contingency? Or you've done this, so they would help you to put it all together, basically. Then on the day they execute.
Would you prefer more planning or coordinating?
Personally, I don't coordinate.
Okay.
I stopped that about 5 years ago because coordination is great, but essentially when someone's planned things without thinking of certain things, it falls back on you. So,
Right, okay.
for example, I had one of weddings when I used to coordinate. She got a cake person, absolutely fine, gave me their details, and that was all good. On the day of the wedding, the cake melted in their van.
Oh, it hadn't even arrived.
It hadn't. So she was late and she wasn't answering her calls. Already I'm like, red flag. But then she arrived, she was like, I'm sorry, ma, all of this stuff. And her cake had melted because it's a buttercream cake. Had I been there to plan it, I would have said, okay, this is a buttercream cake, which means they need to be refrigerated. Which means we can't just have any auntie delivering your cake if this is the height of summer. Good professionals would know that. And so then as a wedding coordinator, we had to go to Marks and Spencer's, buy a cake, do one DIY.
And then did she blame you for that mix-up?
She can't blame, no, she didn't blame me because we explained. But on the day when, you know, imagine you're there going to cut your cake, you're like, she was like, Philo, this is not the cake. And I was like, shh, don't worry, just cut the cake. And then afterwards is when I explained.
Right, okay.
So the coordinator, so as a coordinator, we put in the contingency for her. I always say to couples, I need an emergency fund. So whether it's £500, £1,000, some people will be like, oh no, we've thought about everything. We don't need to give you any extra money. And I'm like, on your wedding day, I'm not gonna come to you and say, hi, your cake has fallen. I'm gonna need to go and buy a cake. Like, if you imagine, you're gonna be like, what's going on?
And where do I get the money from?
Yes.
Now I have to find, do you know what I mean? Like, I spent all the money.
Yeah. So what I always tell them is, if you give us the money, if nothing goes wrong, by all means, you get your money back. So that's what a coordinator does.
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
So we've kind of basically touched on what a wedding planner does. Yeah?
Yeah.
And what a coordinator does. We've done all of that. So
Yes.
how do I go about finding, so if I was planning my wedding, which I am, and if someone else was planning a wedding, how would I go about finding a wedding planner if I wanted one?
Okay, so things like, places like Instagram, absolutely amazing. It showcases somebody's portfolio. But I always say, if you like someone online, call them, see how they
do some more research.
Do some research. Look, do they have a website? Are they actually a wedding planner, wedding coordinator, or is this their side hustle? Because how are you trusting your life in someone else's side hustle? So that means they're not contactable during so and so hours because this is, do you get what I'm saying? So you research and you ask them questions like that. Are you actually a wedding planner full-time? Tell me about your team. Are you a one-man band, or do you actually have a team that's experienced in this?
I think a team is important.
Yes, because a lot of them, to be honest, in this wedding industry, it's a lot of freelancers. But are you working with the same freelancers all the time? So for example, I've got a core team, and then I've got a group of freelancers that I call upon, but all the time. So they know how I work, they know how I like to do my weddings, and that's good. So there's certain questions that you need to ask them, because things like Instagram will show you, do they have 100,000 followers? That does not mean anything. Their following, their shiny website doesn't mean anything.
Their pictures that they've taken from other people. You might not have been the wedding that they planned.
Yes, that's what I was going to touch on. So when you look at their pictures, right, you need to look at what other vendors are tagged. So for example, if I've done a wedding and I tag the photographer, go to the photographer's page and corroborate that they've tagged me as the wedding planner. Because there's a lot of theft in this industry. My own work, there's people that claim that they've done it. I say, madam, if you came out, you put a plate, but you are saying you did everything, but you didn't. So you need to corroborate with other vendors and just narrow it down. A lot of the things in terms of vendors is about personality match. It's about how you're gelling with somebody. So just call them initially. If you send an email, a week later it's not been answered, then that means when you're planning and you need them,
what's gonna happen? I had that kind of situation. I was calling a vendor constantly, weeks, days, no reply, no, like, nah. No. You can't be dealing with that.
And you can tell from the very first like initial like consultation. If they say, I'm gonna call you at 4 p.m. for us to discuss your wedding, what time are they calling you? First impressions. So yeah, that's how you go about. And then yeah.
Okay, so next question is, so as someone that is about to plan the wedding, where is the best place to start when planning a wedding?
First, you need to sit down, just the two of you. I always tell my clients, before you even reach out to any vendor, before you make any, I don't know, any plans or anything, sit down and you're going to discuss 5 things. I need you to look at what type of wedding you want to have, when you want to have it, how much you have to spend. Why are you doing your wedding? That's something I think a lot of people don't discuss enough. So why are you having a wedding as opposed to going to a registry, as opposed to just...
it over and done with.
Do you know a wedding is essentially you're signing a piece of paper for the government that literally doesn't cost much and you're married.
Yep.
The whole wedding and everything is just... it's just for vibes.
It is just for vibes. It is just for vibes.
So you need to discuss and make sure that you are on the same page. So that's, and when, which is the season.
Okay.
So once you get the 5 questions out out and you've both agreed, I then need you to make another list of wants and must-haves. So for example, you might say, I would love a big 400 people wedding and it must have, I don't know, chandeliers and balloons.
And I must have like
all of that
countryside venue.
And then your husband says, I want a small, modest wedding with 30 people. Yeah. And we must have just good music and vibes. If you both don't discuss that from the get-go, you're setting yourselves up to fail.
It's a myth.
Yeah. So make sure you know what are your wants, what are your must-haves. And then you can go from there.
Lovely. So the next question is there any apps out there for brides when planning a wedding? Like any apps that you recommend?
Okay, so I would say I don't actually recommend many bride apps. The reason I say that, because a lot of things in the wedding industry, which is probably really bad for me to say as a wedding planner, is just marketing. It's just another thing for you to get. Essentially, so you can use apps like Bride's Book. There's even Aisle Planner that's quite good as well, and it's got access to vendor directories and stuff like that. But essentially for planning, you just need an Excel sheet. Literally. Because all those apps do is they put all your wedding information in one place.
And those that are looking for templates for Excel sheet where they don't know how to start, I think you can find some on the internet. Just Google, like that's how I made a template. I found one on the internet and I was like, okay, cool, this will do, and I just made a template.
So you're using Excel?
Yep. But I also have Bride's Book as well. Okay. Because I feel like they have a few checklists of what you need to do and when. But even though I don't really actually stick to it and follow it because I always forget. But it makes me remember the things that because I didn't know I had to get my insurance and all of this until I saw it on the checklist. I was like, oh, I didn't know I had to do that. So.
Yes. So it's good that they prompt you, but again, you can always buy like a template of Etsy, which would still have that.
Oh, okay. So there's a template you can buy that has all the checklist of, there you go.
Literally. Plus, that's just another app that you need to have on your phone. That's another thing that puts that pressure of, it's a wedding.
And you're getting the notifications. You need to come back to the app. It does that, you know. When I haven't been on it for like a couple of weeks, you need to come back, we miss you or something like that. And I'm just like,
you'll say it's 3 months down and you haven't done this and that.
Basically.
And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm not. And then that's when, do you know what you start doing when you're in a state of panic? you make decisions based off emotion, and that's when you start making mistakes with your wedding. That's when you book a vendor that you may not have booked otherwise, where you thinking correctly.
Yes, because this app is telling you you've got a timeline to meet.
I mean, you do have a timeline, but
easy.
Yes,
be easy.
I mean, we can go through the timeline later, but there's certain things, of course, you need to do at specific times. But everything else, like, try and enjoy your wedding planning process.
Yeah,
this is why you have a wedding planner.
There you go.
Because they do everything, and then you just, you know, yes, no, maybe.
You just basically send the money over.
Yeah.
No, because it's true. The whole process of like finding venues, calling them up, finding vendors, calling them up, the stress of it all. That's why people get wedding planners. But anyways, we'll get all into that. We'll, you know, cost, vendors, in the next part of the video. Okay, so the next part of the Q&A, we're doing costs and budgeting for weddings. I know a lot of you have sent in so many questions about how much does the wedding cost, so we're gonna get into it. So the first question is, what is the average cost of the wedding in the UK? Like how much? Like people get shocked when they start planning a wedding. They have a heart attack and they're having arguments thinking, I didn't know it was gonna be this much. So what is the average cost?
So I will check the average cost now just on the website and then go through it. So Hitched.com is one of the biggest wedding platforms, and they've done a recent survey which says that as of 2021, the average cost of a wedding was £17,600.
It's a lie.
As a wedding planner who has been doing this for so long, there is no way.
No way.
Like, honestly, so
as in, we're saying this because it's more. We don't say it's less, it's too much. We're saying it's more. It's
way more. Like, for example, they quoted for hair and makeup is £80. I don't know where in this London, in this England, you're getting your hair and makeup done for £80. There's no way.
Yeah.
So there's actually no way of saying the average cost, because you have to think about yourself as an individual. You're a couple, you have your own budget. Weddings are those things that you can spend a lot or you can spend a little, and you will have the exact same things. Of course, there's levels to this, but you have to think of it as, for example, a brand. You can go into Chanel and buy a white cotton t-shirt and it's going to come with a price tag, or you can go into Primark and buy a white cotton t-shirt. You're still wearing a white cotton t-shirt at the end of the day, but it's just what else comes with it.
Yeah.
So I can give you the average of, like, let's say you have 200 people, you can break down how much things you can expect it to cost. But again, this is why I go back to the wants and must-haves. So if you have that list and it's guiding your conversations, and for example, for my own wedding, which I'm currently planning as well, a must is a great venue. That I will not
compromise.
I will not compromise.
No. I think that's for me as well. A must is a great venue. I can't do anyhow venue.
So then, because you have that, you can say, okay, we're going to invest in this venue, but perhaps if we're looking at our budget, can we cut back somewhere else? Has that answered it?
Yeah, but give us like an average of what like a wedding would cost in the UK. Like, what have you seen couples splurge?
So
what's the constant digit that you've seen after
a lot of couples, they come and they say, oh, we've got 30, we've got 35, we've got 40,000, and that is relative to how many guests you have. So I would say my weddings, the average is about 100,000.
£100,000.
£100,000.
She does a luxury wedding, as you can see. £100,000.
I literally, I've set a benchmark, but that's only in the last like 4 years.
For the average people,
for the average people, you can look about 40,000.
40,000.
That's you just. It would still be an amazing wedding. Like, I decided to put myself up because I just like those types of weddings and it's more interesting to work on. But budget for around 40,000. But I caveat that with how many guests are you having?
And also if you're having two weddings, trad or white weddings, so.
Or are you doing them separately? So if you have 100 guests and you're spending £40,000, that's a great wedding. Because you can...
A very great wedding.
A very good wedding.
100 people for £40,000. That's
because then you break it down per head. Because everything in weddings is per head. So the more people, the more money, and that's just the way it works. Whereas if you have a £40,000 wedding for 800 people, it's not going to work. Because the food alone is just, and the venue that's going to accommodate them is going to swallow everything. So it's all relative to your budget.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. Oh, I think we kind of touched on this, but let's make a list of five or six things. What is your wedding must-haves?
Okay.
And things that you can compromise on or cut back on.
Okay. My personal wedding must-haves, or the things that I've seen my clients invest in and have paid off the best. A great venue.
Yeah.
When I say great venue, you look at the guest experience. So when they go, is there parking? Are they going somewhere where they're going to be spending how long trying to find parking in the area? Because that's going to ruin the guest experience.
If they have to walk miles because they had to park like ages away.
Yes.
And they have to leave the party early because they need to find their car, you know?
So that to me is problematic.
Yeah.
Bathrooms.
Do you know is that a factor?
For me, yes.
You know when I booked my first venue for my triad, I didn't even go into the bathroom until the day.
It's a must.
I didn't even go look.
It's a must.
But thank God I walked in there and it was beautiful.
It's honestly, do you know, first of all, you know a lot of us women, we go into bathrooms, we're taking pictures.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Don't have a wedding venue where it's got like one dead bathroom, please.
Yeah.
Like, it might sound really trivial, but that's something that's part of the guest experience.
So if it's a dead venue but dead bathroom, no.
And you have to look at how much is it gonna take. So for example, if you want a really opulent, high-end type of wedding, you need a venue that matches that. Because if you're now going to one community center, it might not match up together. Or you might spend more money trying to make it into something it's not. Whereas if you go to a venue, for example, that's got beautiful lighting, the walls are really nice, that it's not going to cost you that much
to get it done.
Because the walls are part of your decor, the room is part of your decor.
Yeah.
I mean, by all means, if you want a blank canvas,
thousands trying to cover the floor.
Yes. A lot of them have really ugly carpet.
Yeah.
Oh my
there's
my goodness.
With pattern.
Oh, do you know what? I was speaking to a venue. I was like, why do you guys do this? And it's because a lot of them, their carpets are very old.
And it's cost them money to change it, so they rather not.
So there's actually a few venues where during COVID, they actively changed their carpets because they were like, okay, they've got downtime. But things like that, for example, if your color palette is in the reds and purples, and it's all nice, but it's a bright green carpet, you're gonna spend money to cover it up. Or if you're not, it's something that you're gonna see in your videos, one ugly carpet. So that's a must for me.
What's the other thing? Do you have any?
Food.
It's a must.
Don't compromise. It's something.
Yeah, that's also on my list.
It's something that you can't compromise on. I can't stress this enough. Yes, your auntie can cook. Yes, your mom knows somebody. Yes, your church elder can cook, and it's great. Let's enjoy their food,
but not at the wedding.
But there's a difference between somebody who can cook and a wedding caterer. Somebody who can cook, great, they can throw it down.
Professionalism though, do they have that?
Don't even get me started.
Do they have that?
Do you know, even outside of professionalism, because there are catering companies who, dealing with them as a vendor, their professionalism sucks.
But their food is amazing.
But I would always tell the client,
okay,
your food will be good. So it's me who's gonna bear the grunt as your wedding planner or your wedding coordinator, because I'm doing all the emails, I'm doing all the stuff.
Yeah.
But on the day, I know they're gonna deliver. Whereas as a bride, if you have them yourself, then you will have a miserable time trying to even work out a menu. So it's like a costing. So food, don't compromise. Get a reputable catering company that has insurance. You'll be surprised how many people don't do that, because a lot of your venues is tied to the caterer and the insurance.
And they want to see that paperwork before you can allow them on the premises to cook.
And also, you have paid a damage deposit. If you are now allowing any auntie to come and cook, and the kitchen is messed up, you are paying the bill. They're not going to come after your auntie because their name is...
And when you even go to your auntie, she's going to be like, I ain't paying for that.
She's going to give you stories.
Nah.
And another thing why they like to have insurance is for liability purposes. So if somebody gets food poisoning, God forbid, please don't give all your people food poisoning. That is bad guest experience. Yeah. So catering, don't compromise.
So what are the things you can cut back on that are not really something that you would splash on?
Things that I would say are a waste of money is favors. Guests, always leave them. Don't waste your money. Literally, I can count how many, every single wedding,
favors have been
all left. And I know how long the bride is like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make these
detail,
cute little boxes.
Embroidery.
No one cares for them, love. Unless you're giving something really spectacular. I'm talking something that they'll be like, oh my goodness, I need to take this home. Outside of that, don't bother. Don't waste your money. The next thing I would say is like individual programs, and this kind of hurts my heart because I love stationery.
What do you mean? Like in the church?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What do you mean?
Like,
so
you can have them.
Oh, these days they can like scan a barcode and it comes on the phone.
No, that's I don't know. That's a bit impersonal for me. But again, I say this as somebody who spends thousands on that with my clients. But that's because the budget allows for it.
Okay.
We're talking if the budget doesn't allow for it. You can still get a nice program done, printed on nice paper. You don't need to spend like £5 a book. Because if you imagine you have 30 people, you're spending £5 a book. And they're gonna have it, if your church ceremony is 45 minutes,
jeez,
45 minutes.
Now I see.
Now it makes sense, right? So I always say invest in the places where people are gonna spend their most time. Ceremony is an hour. It's nice to invest in, but
they're gonna be there for like
not an hour. Whereas at your reception table, which is the bulk of your wedding, where people are sitting, the room that they're in, you can invest in. So yeah, programs, and what was the other one I said? Favors. The other thing I would personally say is a wedding dress.
A wedding dress?
Yes. I know. No,
I can hear the confusion out in the background.
So you need a wedding dress. Of course you need a wedding dress. But I would say spending an obscene amount on a wedding dress is no.
We'll dive deeper into the wedding dress industry, business.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So, next question is, who pays for the wedding?
Who pays? So, traditionally, the wedding was meant to be paid for by the family of the bride. But obviously nowadays, couples manage their finances differently, and it's you as a couple. Which is why, remember I said before you start planning your wedding, you need to sit down and
have
look
these
at
conversations. How
much you have to spend. Not how much mommy and daddy might contribute. Not how much your auntie has promised you that they'll give you. How much do you physically have that you can invest in your wedding? If more comes later and you're gifted, by all means, great, you have extra money. But knowing how much and your budget is at the heart of everything.
So moving on to the whole paying the wedding and things, do you think it's a good idea for couples to have a joint savings account when planning a wedding? Okay, so that depends on two things. When you start planning your wedding, do you have every single penny that you're going to spend? So if you said you're going to spend 30,000 on your wedding, do you have 30,000 pounds? Right, okay.
Or is it you're planning over the course of the year, and by which case you will have accumulated the 30,000 pounds. So that's why it's two different conversations.
Right.
So if you physically have it, for example, and you have a wedding planner, my clients give me the budget. So I don't spend it without their say so, but I have a client account, and you would say, Philo, I have 30,000 pounds. You would give me your 30,000 pounds. I would pay all your invoices, letting you know, obviously, who's being paid. Whereas then there's couples who say, okay, we've got a year. Out of my salary, I'm just going to use round numbers just to make it easy. He's going to take out £1,000. You're going to take out £1,000. And then that goes into an account where you pay your invoices for your different vendors.
Right.
Does that make sense? So it depends on which route you go. So if you have the money or if you're saving as you go along.
Okay, so if you have the money you think is better, it come out from one account and you both know where the money's going and If you don't have the money, save into one account. Into one account, so all the invoices come into one account, unless you don't want him to know how much, like let's say your dresses or something like that. That too. But then who pays for the dress? Apparently, you know, the men pay for the dress. Do you know what? There's so many different rules when it comes to this whole wedding planning game. So apparently, well, according to tradition, the honeymoon is paid for by the husband and the rings are paid for by the husband. Right. Out of his own pockets. As in, do you know how he bought you an engagement ring? He's supposed to buy you your honeymoon and your wedding band. Obviously, he's already bought the engagement ring. Yeah. And then with the wedding dress, traditionally, how, because I was told traditionally, my parents said, the man buys your wedding dress, and I was like, that's too much. But I think it depends on cultures as well. Because so how's he gonna pay for it? In, let's say that in the English culture, he's not meant to know anything about your dress until you get to the altar. But paying for the price doesn't mean he knows about the dress. He just knows how much it costs. I have clients who the man is not even involved in anything to do with that thing. But again, they've put all the money together and then you allocate different parts of the budget to whatever is needed. The next question is, how much is a wedding dress? Like, what's the average cost of a wedding dress? So the average cost, I think, is about 1,500. Again, it depends on which survey you're looking at. Yep. The type of dress, how extreme, how non-extreme. Yes. So again, wedding dresses are those things, as I said before, you can go into a shop and buy a white dress and you can say it's a wedding dress. So it all depends on the style, it depends on, and the label is a huge factor. You can have two identical dresses, but because it was made by X person, as opposed to, again, if we use the Chanel and Primark analogy, you can go to Primark. Do you know who does really good dresses? Who? Like, don't say Primark. No, don't say Primark. No, like ASOS and House of CB. Oh yeah, do you know they have wedding ranges. Yeah, and I've seen, what else have I seen? I've seen really good on Fashion Nova. Was it Fashion Nova? A lot of fast fashion brands. They do like really nice wedding dresses. Yeah. And you can tell like the price tag, for example, like on ASOS is like in the like 300, 400. Whereas you go to a bridal boutique, that like similar design would be like 1.5, 2.5. But again, it's because it's in a bridal boutique. Exactly. So it's all about brand and how much you want to spend. So in terms, while we're still on the wedding dress subject, what would you say? Buy your wedding dress or rent your wedding dress? For those that don't know, you can actually rent a wedding dress rather than buying it. So tell us more about that. So when I first started weddings, I was team buy. Because I was like, oh my gosh, it's your wedding dress. It's your one time. You're gonna love it. All of this. Yeah. But over the years, I've watched clients invest in their wedding dress, and of course they look beautiful. Yeah. But you wear that dress for like 6 or 7 hours and you will never, don't lie to yourself, you will never wear it again. Yeah. People will say, oh, you know, I'll try it on. I might give it to my daughter. You won't. She doesn't want it. Very true. She doesn't want it. Very true. And wedding dresses are one of those things that have the worst resale value. Yeah. Because again, it's one of those things that's sentimental. So let's say you buy a wedding dress for 3,000. You can't sell it for 2,000. You can't sell it. You can sell it for like 100, 200. So if you imagine the return on investment, it's not there. So if you had to advise a client on whether she should buy or rent, you would say rent. I would say rent all the way. You rent your dress from a reputable company who can still, like, don't get it twisted. When you rent, it doesn't come off the rack and they just get it on the day. They still fit you. Yeah, they do. They still do all the measurements, personalized. If let's say it's got sleeves and you don't want them, they can take them off. If you don't have sleeves and you want to cover your arms, they can put something to cover it up as well. With that, I say you save money. Oh my goodness. And also, you don't have to worry about dry cleaning. You don't have to worry about storing it. No, because you just give it back. You don't even have to wash it after you give it back. No, you put it back. They deliver it in a box. You wear it, you feel beautiful, you take your pictures, put it back in the box and send it away. That's what I'm gonna do, man. The stressfulness of buying a dress that you're gonna keep under your bed for many years.
It's do you know what it is? My clients spend good money on their dresses and they look beautiful. But I know, like, you know, most weddings, you're not wearing your dress the whole day. You have an evening dress. The way I see us just ripping, not ripping the dress, you know, just chucking it on the floor, and it's done.
They're trying to get into the other one and quick.
And it's done.
Yeah.
And from then, that dress's whole purpose is finished.
Yeah.
So I would say you rent your wedding dress. If you want something of sentiment, you buy your wedding veil, because that's something you can keep. If you still wanted it, you can turn it into, I don't know, a top. You can turn it into something. If you wanted to hand it down to your daughter or somebody, you can always convert a veil much easier than you can a dress. And then you invest in your evening dress, because that one you can wear again.
Okay. Someone said, I can't afford a big wedding, but I would like to have a great wedding. Any advice on a low budget wedding?
Okay, so I would say, what is your budget? And have your numbers according to that budget. Everything in weddings is according to the guest count. So if you don't have that much, you don't need to invite people that don't need to be there. So for example, if you've looked at your wedding budget and it can only comfortably suit 100 people, then 100 people is who you're going to invite, and don't go over that. That's the easiest way, because from there you can then just cut down everything else, and then you go back to your wants and must-haves.
Okay.
Make sure the must-haves are covered, and things that you want, or things that are like, yay, it's nice to have, but it's not the end of the world if it's not there. Then you pay things that way.
Right, so we're going to move on to the next category, the next set of questions, which is couples/advice, okay? So the first question is, what advice would you give to a newly engaged couple? I think we've touched on it a little bit. So
I would say, firstly, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I would say as well.
Do you know what's mad? You get engaged and like the next day, so what type of wedding are you having? When is your wedding? Are you going to do it now? Are you going to do it later?
When are you going to have kids?
I'm like, I've only been engaged 5 minutes. Leave me alone. So enjoy it. Like, you don't owe anyone anything at all. And you need to be careful, because if you're not having those conversations we talked about what are your expectations for the wedding, a lot of people assume that it's like the woman's wedding and the man just sits back,
basically did nothing, and he had no say, and it was just
but both of you need to have a say. Your families, as much as we like to say, you know what, it's the two of us, both families need to have a degree of say in it. So have those conversations, but most importantly, enjoy it. Another thing I would say, you need to have wedding free days.
Yes.
So if you say, have that as well. You have that, when's your day?
It's not a set day, because obviously I do rotated shifts, so, but we plan every week or every other week that we have a night out together, a date night, where we don't talk about anything weddings. We don't talk about weddings at all. Like, if anyone talks about wedding, they're taking a shot or something, you know? But yeah, we have wedding free date nights, and you know,
that's really important, because what happens is your whole life will quickly revolve around the wedding,
and it's too much stress.
And if you're not aligned, or if you're not agreeing on certain things, your relationship can quickly deteriorate, because
people that started planning a wedding and ended up, you know, separated.
Because it's stressful. Honestly, it is stressful. And I would also say, parents are great, but they can have their own ideas on your wedding. So consult them, or let them know where you need to, but little details, mommy doesn't need to be involved. She doesn't need to be there picking napkins for you. You want this, mommy wants that. Now you're stressing your husband because he's like,
or you're asking him to pick between your mum or you, which one is better. Imagine.
So those, you might think it's trivial about something like a napkin, but it can spiral out of control. If for months and months all this man's been doing is just paying invoice after invoice, you started with a small wedding and now it's just evolved into something else. You never know, he might snap at the napkin. So
you never know.
You never know. So
right, so the next question, I think this ties into cost and budgeting, but hey ho, we move. How do I create a wedding budget for someone that's planning a wedding?
Yeah.
And say, for example, the wedding planner has gone to them, what is your wedding plan? What is your budget for the wedding? So how would they create a budget?
So you need to look at how much money you want to spend. Remember that question? You've both gone back and you said, how much do we physically have? I'm going to use the 30,000 again, right? So you say 30,000. The bulk of your budget is going to be on food, drink, venue, and your decor. So allocate, let's say 60%, for example. The rest would then be the miscellaneous. So I break down my wedding budget into things that are like the venue, the food, the drink, the decor, the production. That's one cost. Hair and beauty is a whole separate spreadsheet. Dresses is a separate spreadsheet. And then you part of the budget. Then you need to have another part of the budget for phantom costs.
What's phantom costs?
These are things that you haven't budgeted for but are going to come. So for example, you want your wedding dress, but your wedding dress designer is, I don't know, 50 miles away.
Okay, right. Like,
every time you go to try on your wedding dress, which is about 4 times when you're doing like a custom dress, every time you need to get yourself there. After your wedding dress fitting, you want to go for drinks. You've taken you and your mum and your maid of honor. Right, okay. We can't just go try on a wedding dress and then go back home. You're going to go to a restaurant. That's also part of your thing. Your transport. If you have to buy your bridesmaids their gifts, right down to like your earrings, your underwear. You have to have suitcases on your wedding day.
Even your shoes.
Everything is a cost. And I think some people look at the bigger things and they forget the little things that end up adding up. So have a contingency. And as I always say, if you have a wedding budget, add 10 to 20% on top of that for the things you haven't
to make sure you're covered, basically. So to create a wedding budget is basically write down everything you'll need, the price of everything. Roughly, because obviously, say for example, you haven't looked around at, maybe you have a rough idea of how much venues will cost.
Research, because you
research about things before making a budget. So research about how much venues are costing out here, how much photographers, videographers are charging nowadays, and then you'll have an idea on where to start with when creating a budget. Because that's what I like. We made a budget. Me and my fiance made a budget without even looking at prices for venue and prices for photographers and things like that. So we literally started with a budget without having looked at anything. So we were like, this is how much we're gonna pay, and that is it. When we started booking things, we were like, yeah, we need to start again and actually create a proper budget, realistic.
And what I would also say is, don't pay a single vendor, especially the big ticket items, until you know all of them. The reason I say this is, let's say I'm going to use £30,000. You said you've got £30,000 and you've now spent, okay, you've seen a venue, it's like, okay, it's 10, that's nice. You've seen a caterer, it's 10, that's nice, I'll pay for that. Now you've got £10,000 to squeeze everything else in. So the way I do it with my clients is we look at every single thing. So we've decided on the type of wedding, we've decided on the where it is and all of that. I'll say, okay, you're having 300 guests. 300 guests on food, let's average it about 30 to 35 pounds per person. So we're going to add that into the budget already. The venue is going to cost this much. We're going to add it into the budget already. And this is like the budget from like the computer. We haven't paid anyone, just so we have an overview, because what you don't want to do is start paying and then say, oh my gosh, that money is not going to stretch because we've only paid for 4 things and we've got 20 other things to pay for. So have a hypothetical wedding. So what I did for my wedding, I had 3 weddings, hypothetically. And each one, I put it into a calculator. I said this, 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 and that. And then I was like, nope, that wedding's gone. That wedding's gone because I'm not spending that. Rather than me starting, and because once you've started, it's really hard to back out. And you can't, you will lose money, or you want to save face, so you continue, and that's when you start spending above your means or taking loans or things like that. So literally sit down with your Excel spreadsheet and say, okay, I've contacted some venues. It looks like it's about this much. I'm going to call a few photographers and say, what's your packages? I'm going to call a few videographers, call a few random vendors, put those numbers in. And then, and that's how you sort it. Don't guess, please don't guess anything. It's expensive. It's way more expensive than you think.
Right, so we're gonna move on to wedding day and bridal party. Yeah. So what's your advice for someone that has a big bridal party for their wedding? So this is like someone that has, what's big to me, like 10 bridal parties, so 10 women, 10 men, so they have 20. So that's big for me.
Do you know what?
Rather than 5.
I would say don't do it.
Don't do it.
It really sounds harsh.
Yeah.
But first off, if you can tell me you've got 10 best friends that you want there on your wedding day, I'll be a bit, do you really? All those people cannot be your bridal party.
Right.
The reason I say this is that's an additional cost. So if you're gonna go back in your spreadsheet, I would say you need to account for their dresses, their hair, their makeup, their hotel, any gifts you're gonna give them. That's part of your budget. Can you afford to do that for 10 people? Next comes in, let's say, I don't know, behavioral, I don't know.
The drama.
The drama that comes with
10 females.
Not even just 10 females. You know, a lot of us, we have friends from different parts of our lives.
Yeah, so they're not all acquainted with each other. Like
They don't know each other, but they love you, and
so
they're connected through you. So let's say you are a high earner in your friends. You've got some that are high earners and some that are not.
Right, okay.
And you now want them to be in your bridal party.
Right.
Person A, who's a high earner, wants to do your bridal shower in high earner place where the money is high. The other girl is now thinking, who does she think she is? I don't have this money, all of that stuff. So that's how problems start.
Yeah.
And also, that's even before. On your actual wedding day, the logistics that it takes to get 10 women in through hair and makeup and out of the door
on time
is mad. So for example, if you have 10 bridesmaids, you can't have your church ceremony at 11 a.m. You can't have it at 10 a.m. You can't have it at midday.
That's if everyone has their own MUA.
Please don't do that as well.
Everyone has their own MUA.
Don't do it.
Or one MUA for like 2 girls.
Yeah.
Or 3 girls, rather than the whole team.
Don't do that. Because if you have an early ceremony, and then, so we've had ceremonies at 10 a.m. and we've had like 7 girls to get ready. Hair and makeup, please believe, would start at about 4 a.m.
Right.
And again,
that's painful.
You think you've put your friends, like, you're like, oh no, she's my home girl, all of this stuff. On your wedding, where they're knocking. Because when the wedding starts is when your wedding coordinator or your wedding planning team, in the morning, they're there. Because that literally makes or breaks the rest of the day. So it's 4 a.m. I say, okay, bridesmaid number 1, you need to wake up for hair and makeup. This girl's not waking up.
Nah, that's when I'll lose the plot. People will get dropped that day.
But it's too late.
Why?
That day is your wedding day. How can you drop her on that day?
Yeah.
But you don't know about it.
Oh yeah, true. I wouldn't know about
it. You would be in your bridal suite, living it large, you're just enjoying yourself, because what's happening with the bridesmaids, you don't need to know about it. That's another stress. So imagine if your wedding coordinator calls you and says, Nadine, this bridesmaid's not waking up, it's now 4 a.m. Now you're stressed. So some people, your wedding is very important to you, but the level of importance to them may not be the same. Right. And it's really hard, like, and that's how friendships,
that is a sticky one. So you wouldn't recommend any big bridal party?
Literally, from experience, every single one, it fails. These girls aren't talking afterwards. On the day, they're giving attitude. Hey.
So this ties into what you mentioned before in the previous question. So who's supposed to pay for the bridesmaids' dresses? Is it the bride or is it the bridesmaids?
I would always say budget it within your wedding.
So the bride should pay for the bridesmaids' dresses.
Because if you are asking somebody to be your bridesmaid, be ready to pay for their dress.
How about if you're asking someone to be their bridesmaids, they need to be ready for things that come with being a bridesmaid, such as paying for your dress,
But again, that's why you need to know who your friends are.
No, but say you know who your friends are and they're happy to do that.
If they're happy to do that, that's great, but don't expect it.
Right, okay.
Also, there's a difference between I'm happy to do it today, but now I've lost my job in your wedding planning.
Right, okay.
What then happens?
Right.
Or my financial circumstances change, my family dynamics change, but I'm still your friend. That may cause friction. Whereas if you say, I've bought your wedding dresses, if they want to do something extra for you, as your girls will naturally, great, take it. But I would say don't expect that, because the amount of weddings that I see where, so for example, being a bridesmaid is not just about the dress. There's hair, there's makeup,
travel.
They have to stay in a hotel.
Accommodation.
Yep, they have to stay in a hotel. They have to do your bridal shower, that's money. Your hen party, that's money. If somebody is not prepared to do that, it can cause a sour taste in their mouth and your friendship. So if you budget for it, and you do it, and then they say, you know what, you're my friend, I want to gift you, then by all means let them gift you outside of that.
Right.
So your transaction is, I've paid for your dress, I've paid for your hair, I've paid for your makeup, your transport is all sorted. They're like, oh my goodness, she loves us, she's thought about us. And then if they say, oh my God, I had already budgeted, I don't know, £500. You know, it costs a lot to be a bridesmaid. Like, don't think it's £100.
He does. It's expensive. I've been a bridesmaid all my life. And I've had to pay for my own outfit, my own accommodation, my own travel, my own hair and makeup.
And how much did you spend?
A lot of money. I've never had a bride that has paid for our dress, hair and makeup and accommodation.
And could you afford it?
If I said yes, then yeah.
Then you expect to afford it. Okay.
If I had said no, that means I can't afford it. But me saying yes to that person, it means I can afford it.
So did they tell you the cost, or because you were experienced?
No. It's because so I said yes, and then I just started saving money just in case they were
because you're a good friend. Because you're a good friend.
And I hope it's the same with my bridesmaids, because I don't plan.
No, but honestly, do you know what? Sometimes it's not even about good friend or not. Like I said before, life
I feel like it's an honor. So for me, it was like when they're asking me to be their bridesmaid, I am going to put money aside. If she wants to fly out for her hen do, I'm going to buy my ticket if I want to go. If she wants us to help her organize her bridal shower, I'm going to save money for that to happen, obviously. So yeah.
No, I completely get that. And as I said, there's people who have friends who have that capacity.
Yeah, and no one's going to ever make me a bridesmaid unless we're like, do you know what I mean? Like close. Yeah. So obviously, if it's someone that I don't even hardly ever talk to and the opposite bridesmaid, I'll be like, no. Then I'll be like, no. Or are you gonna buy me my bridesmaid dress?
Of course, but the thing I've had from experience is not all bridesmaids come in with that expectation. So a lot of people say yes to being a bridesmaid because, oh my gosh, it's lovely, it's an honor, blah blah blah.
But they don't realize.
But they don't realize the financial burden that it takes. And as I said, if you are not in the right place in your life, and now your friend is messaging you, there's a WhatsApp group, they're like, send us £200 for this, send us £100 for this, and then you're thinking, this ain't my wedding. I don't have that money. Like we have weddings, you can expect about 500 is a modest spend for a bridesmaid. Look at about 800, £1,000. Are you ready to spend that for somebody else's wedding? And if you're choosing your bridesmaid, is that person ready? So that's why I always say, cut all of that. I'm paying for everything. If you had 500 or 1,000 set aside, you can gift that to us and great. If not, it's okay.
A lot to think about there, guys. A lot to think about. Okay, so the next question. So this is about weddings itself. E-invites or hard copy invites?
I would say a mixture of both.
Okay.
So for example, the older generation, your
they
parents,
like the hard
they love
copy.
it. And also it's nice for them. You know, they keep it, they'll put it in their living room and stuff. Oh, look, I went to this person's wedding. It's really nice to have that.
Yeah.
Plus for your pictures, I love to have images of the wedding suit inside the wedding thing. Do you know what I'm saying about, do you know what a wedding suit?
No.
So a wedding suit is your invitation card, your menu, your basically all your stationery makes up a wedding suit. So I like to have all of that so I remember in terms of the pictures.
Right, okay.
So it's nice to have a physical card.
But e-invites?
E-invites or a wedding website is great.
For the younger generation.
For the younger generation, because we're technology people. You just send somebody a link, they go on, they see all the information.
They don't want to accidentally leave the invite at home and they don't know the address. They can just put it up on
But for your
phone.
aunties, your mom, trust me, they love getting real invites.
Right, so this is about honeymoon and destination weddings, okay?
Yep.
So what are your top 5 destination wedding countries? For yourself, obviously.
For myself, I know.
For yourself. And then I'll tell you mine, if I have any.
Do you know what?
Your top
Mine
5.
has been the Maldives for so long.
As a wedding destination or honeymoon?
Honeymoon.
Okay, destination.
Oh, wedding destination. Oh, Italy.
Oh.
So one of my plans is to actually elope to Italy.
Oh.
Just my husband
I would
and
never
I.
have thought Italy.
Oh, Lake Como is my place. If I had the budget, I'll do my whole wedding there.
Okay.
But a venue that I wanted
is in there.
100,000 for the venue. I said
in Italy. 100,000 for the.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Jeez Louise.
For the price, so I said, you know what? I like the place, but I like my pockets. So
I want to come back to a house.
Yes,
and food.
It's all about cutting your cloth according to your size, and I've said my own size can do me and my husband.
So you would elope to Italy?
Yes. So after we do something in England, we would go to Italy. I still have that experience with just the two of us.
What's your other, do you have any other destination?
I've never actually thought about any other destination apart from Italy.
I think my one would be, I've never actually thought about it. Maybe South Africa.
South Africa's lovely.
As a destination wedding.
I went to a wedding there this year. It's really nice.
If I had to pick one, I'll say South Africa because it's just vibes. Okay, so how about, let's do honeymoon then. Your destination honeymoon.
My honeymoon.
Your ideal.
Oh. Have you seen them villas that are like in the water? And I'm sure you've seen them on Instagram.
Yeah, and the blue water, and then there's like service in the morning where you have your breakfast in the water and the pool. Yes, I've seen it.
Give me everything.
I've seen it.
But apparently there's nothing to do in the Maldives outside of that because it's so secluded. There's nothing like excursions.
Really?
Yeah, they were saying, so if you wanted that, Bali is good because you can do like different activities.
So what do you do in Maldives apart from enjoy the views?
You just be enjoying. Because literally, like,
let us know who's been to the Maldives. If
I need to know
activities.
Because apparently it's got like, you know, you get there by seaplane.
Yeah.
Getting there alone is a problem. So getting out and about, especially if you're in the middle of nowhere in one of those huts. It looks great for Instagram, but how many days?
Maybe go there for like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, but so now I think I want to do Africa.
Okay, for a honeymoon. Where?
Yeah, for part of our honeymoon, I was looking at Zanzibar.
That was my own.
Seychelles.
That was my own. Zanzibar is like on the top of my list.
I saw it and I fell in love. I said, you know what? Let's go.
That was on the top of my list.
Yeah.
So with honeymoons, question is, can a wedding planner plan your honeymoon?
They can.
But they don't like to.
No,
I mean, I thought you were gonna add a but.
No, there's no but. They can. It's essentially, if it's part of the wedding package that you discuss with them, then by all means they will plan your honeymoon for you. Or there are actual specialist honeymoon planners that you can go to.
Right.
And they will put all the itinerary together for you.
Right. Okay, I think we missed a question. So I'm just gonna throw it in there. How do I find vendors? Someone said.
How do you
for your wedding vendors? So say you don't have a wedding planner and you're doing it on your own, how would I find vendors?
So let's assume you've checked your 5 questions, you've got your list of must-haves, you know your budget. Next is you start to research, and for a lot of people it starts with Instagram or TikTok.
That was me.
Yes. So you literally look at past weddings.
Yes.
You know, there's like trending
and then I
weddings.
see who they've tagged.
Yes.
And then I go to them and then I check them out. Yeah.
So you've done that, you've seen, okay, let's say I look and I'm like, okay, Nadine got married. Who did she have for her wedding?
Yeah.
And what you need to do in that is look at people who are having a similar wedding to what you want. By all means, if you're going to a celebrity, looking at their vendors, the price tags will be celebrity vendor price tags. So look at somebody who has a wedding similar to you.
And your budget.
And your budget that you're looking like you want. You then make a list. You say, okay, this florist was tagged, this decorator was tagged. Look at the work And you need to be forensic about this. Don't just look at the outskirts, shiny, it's pretty. You need to, as I said, go, if the photographer tags the decorator, go to the decorator's page. Now you need to look at all their other type of work. So you need to see, do they do weddings like the one I want to have? Because it's easier for you to find somebody who does already what you want than for you to find somebody and say, can you do this?
Right, okay.
So for example, if you want a really chic city wedding and you love boho, the boho theme and all of that, right? But you're going to somebody who does really opulent stuff. They haven't got any boho chic on their
And then you're
page.
coming to ask them to add boho.
And you're saying, can you do this?
And you're confused when they say no. Or you turn up at your wedding and there's none.
Exactly. But if you look at all their weddings and you say, okay, I like this because I want that, I want that, I want that, then you can do that. And then from there, you make a short list of 3 per category.
Right.
I would say no more than 3 because you'll start getting confused.
Right.
So if you're going to choose wedding planners, narrow it down to 3 because you've researched, you've looked at their website, and then you're going to contact them.
Yeah.
Say, can we have an initial phone call? Do that with 3 photographers, 3 videographers, 3 of everything.
Yeah.
Once you do that, literally have conversations with them, because what makes it easier is people you like and you can talk to.
Right.
Especially like any coordinator you're gonna have, because that's the most conversations. A lot of the vendors, so for example, a photographer you speak to once, possibly over Zoom, or you have your pre-wed shoot. Everyone else is like, okay, this is what you want, this is that, sign the contract, that's it. Whereas there's some vendors where the relationship is a bit more intimate.
Right.
When I say intimate, I mean you're talking a lot.
Right.
There's ideas back and forth. You need to make sure.
Numbers, text anytime.
Yes.
You know.
Do you want to speak to this person?
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Because
that was like me and my decor lady. Like any hours I'll be on my night shift, I'm like, oh, I got a question, and I'll just message her, like whatever time, and it was like fine. The vibes.
That's the thing. Ways you and I'm glad you brought that up. So one thing I always discuss with my clients when we start is, what is your mode of communication? So I always say to my clients, I'm open, but like Sundays are my family days.
So don't message me.
No, don't message me. If there's an emergency,
like message,
then of course. But what emergency are you having? You know?
Yeah.
So I always tell them, on a Sunday, I switch off, because you have to have those boundaries, otherwise life and work become one. Some vendors will only say, we're going to email twice, and we're going to do this, and that's it. Don't call me until your wedding day. And you need to know that beforehand. Because if you're expecting and you're like, I've been calling and calling and they haven't picked up, you're getting frustrated. But they're like, no, that's in my terms. I don't do them things.
Right, okay.
Like a lot of makeup artists won't actually talk to you. You book them 8-9 months ahead, but they've got so many bookings, they're not going to talk to you until the week of your wedding. Yeah. So look at their communication and have that conversation first.
The last 2 questions. Real cake or fake cake?
Real cake, fake cake. It depends on how elaborate you want it.
Say, I don't know, you want a cake, but you can't afford a cake.
Yes.
Splurge or get a fake cake?
Get a fake cake. I would say certain things can be faked. Yeah. You know the best cakes that you see on Instagram
are fake. They're not real.
It's fake. And you'll be showing them Pinterest and I want this, and you
go to your cake decorator to make that cake, but the cake is fake.
It's fake. And you know what the thing is? No one will know once the cake is cut.
And they don't even cut the fake cake. They make like a fake cake and then the real cake. They mix it up so that the cake that is actually being cut is the real cake.
So that's called a wedge. Yeah. So if you do that, so let's say you have 5 tiers. They will do the tier where you cut. They'll put literally that triangle, which we call a wedge, is the only real part.
I thought it was just the whole thing around. No.
Literally just that bit. And what they normally do, they put a sign, like a little marking. So us as wedding people,
you know where.
So then we would place your knife right there. So you cut it, that's it. And then in the back for the guests, they have what we call a tray cake, which is essentially just a normal baked cake, and then it's cut into portions. Because if you imagine, once the cake is taken away, guests don't know that that cake cut like this
looks like
is not that cake like that.
Do you see the way you can get around this cost?
No, honestly, I mean,
Like,
don't get it twisted. A wedding cake, you are priced on not only the actual cake, but the workmanship. So if you're wanting like really elaborate florals in your cake and for them to do like sugar pearls and all of those things, it's going to be expensive. Right. So whether it's fake or not, they still have to decorate it.
Right, okay.
But if you just want like a normal, modest cake, then by all means you can get away with it.
Okay, the last and final questions, I don't want this video to be too long.
Yeah.
Is, are there any aspects of wedding planning you do not like?
Yes.
To round it up.
As a vendor, yeah.
What do you mean?
Aspects I don't like as a vendor.
As a wedding planner. So
as my role. So I would say the thing I don't like is people when couples have unmatched expectations of their wedding.
Right, okay.
So I've had weddings where the groom will call me with one thing, the bride will call me with another thing. It's then like,
yeah,
who do we listen to?
Yeah.
So like, to give you an example, there was a wedding where the groom was really specific about the menu. There was an item he didn't want, but the bride wanted it. He called me and said, tell the caterer to take it off and swap with this thing. So it's like, do I listen to him and tell the caterer to take it off?
That is sticky.
Yeah. There's a lot of emotion. Like I've even heard about brides inflating prices of things to get money off their prospective husband. So for example, you would tell him the wedding dress is 5,000. So he gives you 5,000.
You keep like 3,000
and you spend.
Huh?
It happens.
You're joking.
No, I'm dead ass. But like, don't tell him. And it's like, yep.
No, honestly, it's happened to some people that you know, or a client is working with.
I have a lot of friends who are wedding planners, and what we do is we call each other, like, she just asked me to do this, and I'm like, no. Yeah.
And then so when you're sending
an invoice,
you say dress was this much, even though
so for me, I couldn't do stuff like that because I'm like, no.
That's like a bad way to start. Like that's insane. That marriage is going to have bad vibes.
Honestly, it's
going to have bad vibes.
Why are you lying already?
Yeah, that marriage is gonna have bad vibes.
Anyway, so
it's
funny, like, so it's things like that, and there's a lot of emotional play. And I also don't like I had a wedding where everything is set. It's been actually a few weddings where you do the seating plan.
Right.
The family on the day, come and they're cussing me and my
Let's
team.
not even talk about seating plans. Hey.
Why are you mad at me?
They get emotional.
She's like, why is my chair here? They'll move, you know the place cards with they will move it and put it on. I said, you can't do that. They'll be like, but you don't know, you've disrespected me by putting me here. And I'm like, it's not me.
Your daughter did that.
I don't know you people. Like,
exactly.
I gave them a floor plan.
Yeah.
They chose, but everything goes onto the...
So in those situations, what do you do? Do you, because obviously now you're there ironing out the details and one auntie has decided to move herself.
Yep.
So to sort it out, do you then get the bride involved?
If it's been 2 weddings where I've had to do that.
Right, okay.
Where it was actually the bride's father who moved himself and his people.
Right. I
have to tell her because they are right at the front.
Right.
If she says keep them away from me and he decides I need to be here, I had to tell her.
Right, okay.
But like even I've had weddings where the mum of the bride, so some couples, so there's different ways that they do seating plan. They'll say either it's a free-for-all, there's only reserved table for bridesmaids and family, everyone else sit wherever you want.
Right, okay.
I say, don't do that, but you know, we only advise, we can't.
You recommend seating plan for everybody?
Yeah, we can't push you. Or you do seating plan and the family, so I had, oh gosh, that wedding, I'll never forget it. The family, one family's Nigerian, one family's not Ghanaian, Jamaican.
Yeesh, okay.
And one side did not listen or didn't like where they were, so they swapped. The other side said, I've seen the seating plan, this is meant to be my table, get off my table.
Ooh, child.
You see, in those instances, we can't do anything. We always tell them we literally cannot do anything about it. The families have to figure it out. Of course, we can beg and say, you know what, this is a great chair. Please sit here. We just need to start.
To nice it, maybe.
You try and appease them, but the whole seating thing, always problematic. people take it very deep. You put them at the back and they believe that they're your auntie that held you when you were a baby, and therefore they are afforded the right to be on the VIP
feel very
table.
disrespected.
No, do you know what they say to
Very.
me? You have disrespected me. As in me, I have disrespected them.
Imagine. Oh, battery.
Yeah. And I'm like, auntie, I don't know you.
Wow.
But yeah, apart from that, love it.
You wouldn't change it for the world. You like what you do.
I do. I like it. When it's the right client and it's the right wedding. So I always say, not every wedding planner, not every wedding vendor, not everyone in weddings, they're not all for you.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure you're aligned in your personalities, in the things you like, in how you like to work and do things.
Right.
So make sure that your vendors match you and you will have a great time. If not, you're
have
batting
problems.
heads.
Problems.
Honestly, you're batting heads and it's not going to be fun. And I can see the weddings where the client and I were not aligned are the ones I've not enjoyed. And by the end of it, trust me, I'm like, I can't wait to finish this. But then there's most of my clients, to this day, they are my friends. To this day, I send them Christmas gifts. I send them birthday. On mine, they come, they are there. They come to my home.
I love that.
We're gisting because I'm like, you are my people.
Wow.
So yeah, find you vendors that you can genuinely like.
Okay, guys. So that was the last of the Q&A, the last questions. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I just want to say thank you to Philo for coming onto the channel and you know, answering our questions.
Happy to.
So Philo's going to tell you where you can find her and what she can do for you if you guys are looking for like advice and things like that.
Okay, well, you can find me on @EVP Events on Instagram. Don't have a TikTok.
I'll link it below.
I don't have a TikTok.
And in the description.
Yeah, so you can feel free, email me if you want any advice, if you want to check over any vendors. Happy to help you with that as well and just point you in the right direction in terms of your wedding planning or coordination.
Yeah, so basically hit her up, guys. She's been helping me out with some advice, tricks and tips. You guys need her in your life. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Do all of that good stuff and catch me in my next video, which will be either another wedding series video or a midwifery related video. Who knows? But yes, I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.
Bye.